Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Not Your Average Gold Digger with yours truly, Dr. Marion McNabb. Really excited to kick off episode 2 of season 1 of Not Your Average Gold Digger. This is a YouTube series that I'm starting as I venture out as a recreational gold prospector here in North Carolina. So I decided to start a YouTube channel and take some friends along for the ride to teach some lessons from what I'm learning. So tune in and we're going to be going for a ride. If you like and are interested in learning how to prospect for gold in your backyard, in local creeks, with permission, of course, then you're going to want to tune in to the next couple of episodes that I, Dr. Marion McNabb, Not Your Average Gold Digger, are going to be cranking out here. We are starting out by learning the basics of what is gold mining, what is gold prospecting, and what is the best kind of gold prospecting for the recreational gold prospector like me and like you if you're interested. So these videos are geared towards people that are into trying to learn about gold, where to find gold, how to find gold, how to pan for gold, the history of gold, the geology of gold, all of that good stuff. So welcome to episode 2. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the history of gold in North Carolina. North Carolina has such a fascinating geologic history. And the reason why we're starting here is because you need to know the history of how gold formed in these beautiful Appalachian Mountains that we're going to discover together in future videos. And then how did that gold form 300 million years ago? And how is it falling out and falling into the river and eroding into the rivers and creeks and streams where we can now placer mine as recreational gold prospectors and miners? Well, let's get started with the history. Did you know that the gold rush in America actually started in North Carolina? Most people think it was California, but nope. It was really based out of here in North Carolina. That was the real gold rush. It was long before the West got its glitter. And today we're going to dig into some of the history and uncover the past and realize how we can find some of that gold today. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to take you back to 300 million years ago. We're like protozoa, the earth is forming, the planet is molding itself. And there's violent volcanic activity that is occurring, and it's creating really mineral-rich deposits. And those mineral-rich deposits, over time, get heated up by this volcanic activity, and gold is one of those. Now, it's important to note that gold can never erode away. It's a permanent material. And what happens is that at that beginning time of 300 million years ago, it was a process in a time called Pangea, when we were all one continent. Now, there's a little bit of history before that till we got to that, but at that time, the coast of Africa was melded and blended with the coast of North Carolina, and through volcanic activity, mountains erupted. And those mountains became the Appalachian Mountains that we get to hike and explore today, and we'll be exploring in our future Not Your Average Gold Digger, Dr. Marion McNabb videos. And those mountain ranges formed mineral-rich deposits all throughout the mountains. And really what happened with gold is that it heated up in those volcanic activity and then rose to the surface. And in the formation of those mountains, it settled out into quartz veins. And Pangea broke apart, and now we have the Appalachian Mountains all on the East Coast, which are some of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. So it's super exciting to get to explore what happened from that time until now in February 2025. Well, we're in our winter episodes. We're getting ready for spring. So we're learning the basics of gold, placer mining, what is gold, how is gold formed, and then we're going to move into practical lessons. We're going to learn how to pan, and we're going to then get out on the creek. But we're going to practice first. So if you like what you're seeing so far, hit that like and subscribe button. Keep on going in this series of educational videos. There's 6 in this series that just gives you the basics, how to get started with yours truly, Dr. Marion McNabb, and Not Your Average Gold Digger. All right, so the primary geological event that precipitated gold in North Carolina is this metamorphic rock formations and the uplift of the Appalachian Mountains. And actually, in North Carolina, most of the gold deposits are along the Piedmont region of the state, which is more in the central east coast, really in the Carolina Slate Belt. So as these mountains were forming, the mountains are forming all through the Carolinas and through Georgia, and you can see a slate belt of gold that has been found throughout this region. Now again, as I mentioned, gold is typically found in quartz veins that were formed by hydrothermal fluids that were circulating through rock as volcanic activity was happening. Okay, so now that gold's flowing up, and now it's in quartz veins, it's settling, it's cooling, and now it's formed into these beautiful mountains, and you have veins stuck in. And over time, erosion happens. And as erosion happens, natural disasters happen, rains, floods, just general year after year winds, a variety of things cause erosion, and that mountain breaks off, and those pieces of those quartz veins break off, and pieces of the gold in those quartz veins also break off. And then what happens? Gravity. Gravity happens. Can you believe that? Gravity. And so the gold and the quartz tumble down. But again, as I said in my first video, one of the key things to remember is that gold is 19 times heavier than water. So it tumbles and it wants to stop and fall out as soon as possible. So let's just keep that in mind. Remember that as we move on. All right, so that's a brief history. Whoa, 300 million years ago, all this gold was formed. But you know when it was discovered on paper in North Carolina? 1799. That's when a 12-year-old boy, Conrad Reed, found a 17-pound gold nugget in Caribous County, which is in the eastern side of the state. He brought that sucker home, gave it to his dad, and his dad used it as a doorstop. And they used it for years as a doorstop, until one day a jeweler came by and realized what that doorstop was, and offered the Reed family $3 or something and 60 cents, when the real value of that gold at the time was, I think, over $3,000. They sold it to the jeweler, and eventually the Reed family found out, and they ended up suing the jeweler and got some more money back, as they rightly should. And that was essentially the first documented finding of gold in North Carolina. So I've heard other stories since I've moved here that gold's been found in other parts of the state, larger nuggets, anywhere upwards of 55 pounds, but we'll talk about that on later videos. Since then, since 1799, North Carolina was the only gold-producing state from 1803 to 1828, and continued to be the leading producer of gold into 1848, until gold was discovered in California, believe it or not. And then, goodness gracious, in 1835, now this is before everything started in California. 1835, it started in California in 1848. In 1835, the Belcher Mint was established in Rutherford County in North Carolina. And what that means, it was the first time that any currency was recognized by the U.S. government that was produced outside of the federal government. And that was right here in North Carolina. That's how much gold was found. Now, the gold rush then declined in 1848 when gold was discovered in California. And although it was the second most largest industry next to agriculture in North Carolina, the gold mining industry tended to decline. Then, where were those miners looking for gold, and what equipment did they use? Well, they were looking for gold in a couple of ways. They were looking for gold in volcanic rocks, as I said, in quartz veins, but in streams that were flowing through gold-producing districts, and they found that to be the best place for gold panning. So, these old miners were using equipment like this. This is a classifier where you're going in the creek and you're classifying out rocks or larger gemstones and minerals. They're using things like this, like a regular sieve, where you're then shaking down the silt and the sand so that you can find gold, where then you move into using a pan, which the old timers had different pans, but this is a gold pan now. And then you move into actually, panning out and seeing if you have black sand and gold. So all of these miners in North Carolina declined in the late 1800s, but there are so many maps that are available and so much information online about where you can find gold. However, the key place to find gold is in streams and in creeks. Now, because of erosion, it is still possible to find gold in creeks and streams in North Carolina. Although you have to know that, I mean, once a place is exhausted of gold, it's exhausted of gold. This is also a finite resource. Unless things like natural disasters occur, major rains occur, or tornadoes, or something that erodes the land, or a hurricane. So, you know, there are several counties in Piedmont County and in Western North Carolina that have maps. I'm going to be talking about that in our next video, so I hope you tune in to the next video. We're going to be drilling down on how to read a geologic map. We'll be looking at books like this, A Geologic Adventure, Your Guide to the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. You cannot take any rocks or minerals out of here, but it's really great. It provides a lot of good information about bedrock, soil, sediment, all the things that we need to know about, and how far they are down, with really nice, you know, scientific citations here. So we're going to be digging into that in the next episode. Mostly I'm going to be mining in Western North Carolina. But, you know, maybe I'll take a field trip over to Eastern North Carolina and see what's going on over there. A lot of the activity, the main activity, mints and everything happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's how Charlotte became a city and really, you know, sort of a big hub for gold activity in North Carolina. So what essentially happened? So, you know, gold was then found in California. And then, you know, mining still kept going here in North Carolina. But several experiments, several explosions and disasters happened in the mining industry that caused a slowdown. And in 1904, for example, flooding of a dam actually caused a whirlpool and sucked some gold miners down a mine. In 1923, there was an explosion that killed 53 people that were mining in a gold mine. In 2000, there was an abandoned mine that, you know, collapsed as a sinkhole in somebody's house in North Carolina. So there's been a lot of accidents. So there's a lot of work with OSHA and around safety, and really some thought about how to revive this industry here in North Carolina. But again, you're joining in with Not Your Average Gold Digger, Dr. Marion McNabb, and my focus is on the recreational gold prospector, not the commercial. So if you are an individual that's interested in learning more about this, learning about gold panning, learning about mining, hit that like and subscribe button and check out my next videos that are coming up and the past ones, because you're going to be learning a lot. All right, so where can you prospect in North Carolina? Well, most property in North Carolina is privately owned. So if you privately own your land, then you own the rights to whatever's on your land, whether that's gemstones or minerals, with the exception of making sure in your ownership rights that you own the mineral rights. So sometimes you could buy a plot of land and other people could have the mineral rights. So you really got to be aware of that. Well, now if you don't have land, you can still make your way into doing some recreational prospecting in North Carolina. So if you're interested, say you've read the maps, you know where gold's been found before, that's typically where you want to hunt out. Whatever's been found before, go around that area. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? Understanding that things could have been exhausted, but we're going to talk about some innovative ways that you can go around an old gold mine and still find some nuggets that people probably drop behind, like pennies. Pick them all up. So anyway, you can go actually to a landowner and you can ask permission to prospect on their land. Most landowners are cooperative, from what I hear and gather, and you just ask permission and then, you know, you're good to go. But most landowners do not tolerate trespassing. If you're serious in mining, like I am going to be, you really want to go for like a lease agreement or purchasing mineral rights, negotiated with the landowner. So that's my goal. So we're going to, you know, put that pin up in there, and we're going to talk more about that in future videos. So again, most federal lands in North Carolina are forests and parks, and prospecting is not permitted in national parks. It's occasionally granted in national forests, and I'm going to do a video where we can explore that, because I think in Pisgah National Forest, you can actually do prospecting if you don't use extra equipment like a sluice or a dredge or any of that. So anyway, there we go. That's my little 101 on the gold history of North Carolina. And I felt like that was important for us to just, see the lay of the land. Since I'm new here, I had to get to know it and, have respect for where we're going. We always don't ever want to leave a trace. We want to be cleaner than where we found our location, and be respectful of nature. Be respectful of what nature gives us and what we give back. So, thanks for joining me on episode number 2, season 1 of Not Your Average Gold Digger with yours truly, Dr. Marian McNabb. And I'm going to leave you with our 3 hot tips for today's episode. All right. Now that we know North Carolina's golden past, tip number 1 is let's research the old mining areas. Maybe on the gravel. I just watched a video that on the gravel of a driveway of an old mine, somebody took a metal detector and found 3 ounces of gold just falling off the truck. So we're going to go and we're going to study all the gold mining areas in North Carolina, and we're going to ask permission. And we're going to see what we can do and where we can mine, if that's in the creek, in the riverbed, outside, and we're going to learn all the regulations. All right, now, always ask permission. We're going to use historic maps. We're going to learn from the experts, the old miners, and we're even going to use the old mining equipment. Yeah, because it works. All right, so tip number 2. We're going to think like a river. If these miners were around 200 years ago, the rivers and the creeks and the streams would have flowed in a particular way, in a particular manner that long ago. And we have maps. We have maps that'll show the flow of the river. Now, think about 200 years later. There's been a lot of ecological changes, a lot of environmental changes, erosion changes, and we just had Hurricane Helene here, which not less than 3 days ago, I was at a workshop where I learned that the riverways and the creeks and the streams have been permanently changed here in North Carolina. So we're going to have to think like a river, and we're going to have to think like a river and a creek and a stream, but we're going to have to think about it over time. That's the art of gold prospecting. You got to think where the gold wants to fall out and where the water's going to push it. That's why I like it. It's like a mystery that you have to solve. So we're going to dig in, but we're also going to think like a river. All right, and our 3rd lesson is, again, we're going to check these recent ecological changes. Right now, we're doing this learning series, part 1, our season 1, which is learning the basics in the wintertime. Because you know what? We're going to start mining and placer mining and getting out on the creek in the spring. And I know it looks like it's already spring here, but it's still February. It's 75 degrees, though, here in Asheville, so gotta love it. Okay, well, thank you again for checking in and tuning in to Not Your Average Gold Digger with yours truly, Dr. Marian McNabb. I hope to see you in the next episode. We're going to be digging into how to read a map and where's all that history and where was that gold found here in North Carolina. And then we're going to plot out where we should go to do our field trips. All right, thank you for tuning in to Not Your Average Gold Digger. Hit that like and subscribe button, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next adventure.